Shalom, Apostle Tahar coming back at you with this truth, giving all praise to you. How about Shem Al Shai by Shem Rakah Kwadash. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this video The Jewish Encyclopedia of 1906 agrees that Arzareth is America. I might cut that down. I might cut that title down, change it a little bit. Well, we'll see. Anyway, yeah, I was just going through certain videos, just going over the web and looking for a topic because I wanted to do a video, but nothing really came to my mind. I mean, I could have brought up anything, but I wanted to bring up something, give you a video that's going to be somewhat intriguing. It's this. See, we know about this, about Arzareth or Arzareth in the Apocrypha. Oh, also this in this Jewish Encyclopedia, which is online, they deal with the Apocrypha. Like if you go on the second Ezra, the 13th chapter, it says here fourth Ezra, which we know is second Ezra. So some copies of the Apocrypha has the fourth Ezra and the fourth or third and fourth Maccabees, which I believe I had read something from fourth Maccabees. This was a while ago. They were going more into detail on the history of the Maccabees during that period, Antiochus Epiphanes. Anyway, what I did was, like I said, we know the subject. You know, we know that the new land that the 10 tribes went to, which is Arzareth, is America. But then I don't know if it was myself, the first one that found it, because I said this word has to be somewhere in the scriptures, and this was like years ago, and I stumbled upon it. I don't know if anybody else did. This is Deuteronomy 29, verse 24 to 27, and like I said, we did a sit down on it. This had to be sometime around, I don't know, 2014 maybe. If I find the video, I'll go through it, see if I can bring that up. Because back at the One West, we all knew that Arzareth was America, and I believe the way it was taught that it was a new land, but no one said that found the Hebrew word for it. It's actually 2 Hebrew words. So let me just read before I read this this from the Jewish Encyclopedia. I put in the word Arzareth in Google, and then what came up was a bunch of videos. You had the first 3 videos, and then you had another 3 videos behind it, then another 3 videos behind it, and the majority of those videos were put up by Great Millstone, because we do research. We don't just say things. We don't just say this means that and that means this, and this guy Septimius Severus was the first. We don't just say things. We study things. We are like the Church of Berea, which, by the way, the Church of Berea, when you go into the history of that church, they were Israelites that knew that they were Israelites, that studied. They were researchers. They were into the scriptures. They were into the Old Testament. So when they received this truth that the Messiah came, then they accepted it. So they already had this truth. You had people, Israelites, that didn't know anything, so they had to learn, understand scriptures, and eventually understand the law. You had some Israelites that, were born knowing that they were Israelites, whether they were Judah, Benjamin, Levi, or any of the other tribes. And they were, and some of them were learned, and some of them were not. Like the example of Nicodemus, he was a learned man that had to that our Lord had to bring him deeper into this truth. The same thing with the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was a learned man. He was raised up. He was brought up by Gamaliel, who taught him the law. So the Apostle Paul was considered to be a learned man, as opposed to the apostles that were they were not learned men. In other words, they would be considered common men. And when our Lord came on the scene, he came on the scene looking like a common man. He didn't have no high seat among the Israelites. You had the high priests, and you had the scribes and the Pharisees and so forth. But our Lord wasn't among that. That's why they came against him, because he didn't come from the skies as a giant and sitting on the throne. So it would have been obvious that, oh, that's the Messiah. He came as a regular man. He came as the son of a carpenter. He came, he had a father and a mother, and he even made the statement, a prophet is not honored in his own land. So he would be considered a regular Israelite that was pretty much telling the world that he was the Messiah. And they said, nah, you're not the Messiah, because you don't look like the Messiah. Meaning, like I just said, you didn't come in this majestic way. And the same thing goes for Elijah. He was out there in the wilderness. He was homeless. He didn't have an apartment. He didn't. At the end of the day, he didn't go home to his apartment or his house. He was out there in the wilderness. But the people knew that this man was a man of the Lord. And some of them knew that he was Elijah, because they confronted him and said, are you Elijah? And he said no. Why did he say no? Because he didn't know that he was Elijah. Anyway, let me get back into the subject. Like I said, this is from the Jewish Encyclopedia online. The unedited full text of the 1906 Jewish Encyclopedia. And I'm gonna put this in my favorites if I didn't already. So this was written before any of you were born. Anyway, it says Arzareth, Arzareth by Morris Jestro Jr., Kaufman Kohler, which is a so-called Jew. Because these so-called Jews, you have so-called Jews that study, that research, that have teams that go over, teams of archaeologists that go over to the ancient world, and they dig up things to confirm whether there was a man by this name, or whether there was they know that there was a David. They know that there was a Saul. They know that there was people, the people of Israel. They know the color, the color, the facial features of an Israelite. They know that we are the Israelites. They know that we have the truth. But somehow they want to not admit it, and that's stupid, because if they know all that, they know that this is going to come to pass. They know that we're going to be on top of them. Anyway, let me get into this story, man. It says, the name of the land beyond the great river. And when we tell people that, oh, that y'all just making this up, But when a top scholar Edomite says it, then they take notice. It says, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses. And then you can read about that in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, around about the 20th verse. But read the whole chapter until the time of the restoration, according to it says here 4 Esdras 13:45. It says Columbus identified America with this land. So there's a mention of Columbus. It says C. K. Serling's Christopher Columbus, translated by Dr. C. Gross, page 15. So if you got the money, you want to go get that book, you go ahead and get it, or you might be able to get it on off of the web. You know, you might put this in Google, which I'm not going to do. Somebody else, go ahead and do it. So they identify the land Arzareth with Columbus coming to this land. It says the name, it has been suggested by Sheila Zingisi, if I'm saying that right, is taken from Deuteronomy 29 verses 24 to 27. And like I said, if I can find the video, I'll put the video up where I actually go into it. It says, because they forsook the covenant of the Lord and went and served other gods, the Lord rooted them out of their land, pursuant to 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, and cast them into another land. And then they give you the Hebrew. Arez, Arheret, as this day. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 29, verse 24. Deuteronomy. And by the way, while I'm getting this, you know, we're born to do this, man. You know how Stevie Wonder was born to do music, play music. He's been playing music since a child, a young child. Prince was placed upon this earth to play music. All that music was in him. He was self-educated, meaning the music that was in him came out of him. That's what education means. You're educated to the fact that you're Israelites. When we tell you Israelite and you eventually say, oh, I can see that I'm an Israelite, it was already in you. Muhammad Ali, he was born to be a boxer. At the age of 12, his bike was stolen, and he ran into this Edomite police officer that showed him how to box, and he won national tournaments. He was the #1 boxer in his weight class, and that wasn't heavyweight, that was light heavyweight. He was 178 pounds, and that's an amateur light heavyweight as opposed to the pro light heavyweight, which is 175. And when he won that gold medal, when he came back, he was a small heavyweight, about 105, 109 pounds. And then as he matured, he weighed 215, 220, 220 some odd pounds. Anyway, he was born to box. That was his whole life was boxing. His whole life was boxing. Stevie Wonder, his whole life is music, because he was, and what I teach is that he was Beethoven back in the past. So the music was in him. Prince, That was this guy, Amadeus. Michael Jackson. Who was he in the past? He was born to do music. From the time that he can stand up at about the age of 4, his father saw that talent in him, and from that point, whether it be from the age of 4, age of 3, whatever, up until the point that he died, his whole life was centered around music. So if we believe that we're the prophets, we are born to be prophets. And our whole life is centered around doing what we're doing. And that's why I struggle for about a good 30 minutes to try to find a subject or something to say. I just didn't want to turn on the camera and just say anything. Now you got some guys that are faking it, man. You can look at a video and see if this guy is speaking from the heart and he's about this truth, or he's going by the motion. You got a lot of guys out there that are going by the motions. And if you don't change your ways, the Most High is going to deal with you. Anyway, Deuteronomy 29, verse 24. It says, even all nations shall say, wherefore hath the Lord done thus unto this land? What meaneth the heat of this great anger? Because the Most High was angry with us. Then men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of Yahweh, the Most High, of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. Now, it was all set up in the spirit that we were going to forsake the covenant anyway. The Most High put it in our spirit to break the covenant, so he can turn around and set up a new covenant. He already had that set up, the new covenant. And the new covenant is to take the same covenant that we had from the beginning and program that covenant, the law, statutes, and commandments, in our hearts. The only thing was done away with was the sacrifice of animals, because our Lord became the ultimate sacrifice. And in the kingdom, we won't have to sacrifice nothing, because we're gonna be without sin. We're gonna be perfect. Can you imagine that? We're gonna be perfect. Deuteronomy 29, verse 26. For they went and served other gods. Israel did that, and worshipped them, gods whom they knew not, and whom he had not given unto them. (27) And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against this land, to bring upon it all the curses that are written in this book. You go back to chapter back to Deuteronomy 28, and we received all these curses. We're still under the curses, and we're under various parts of the curses. 28. And Yahweh rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day. So now when you look up that word, another land, the word is Arzareth. Arzareth. Arzareth means another. Arzareth means land. So the word Arzareth means, in the Hebrew, this is a compound word, two words, to make up one. In the Hebrew, it simply means another land. So now let's go back to the Jewish Encyclopedia under the word Arzareth. It says, all right, and cast them into another land, Ares Aheret, as this day. This passage is made to refer in Mishnah San 3 to the 10 tribes then it gives you a whole lot of references to other books. It says, but different opinions are expressed by Akiba and Eliza. The translations are rather determined than the scriptural verse. One of them takes the words as this day to signify that as the day goeth, but darkness of the night. I'm sorry, these words are jumping around a little bit. Okay, but doeth not return, so shall they who are cast off not return. And they haven't returned. The 10 tribes that came over here, which are these, we call the Indian tribes and the so-called Latin tribes, they have not returned to the land of Israel. And they don't know that they're from the land of Israel. You never have any of these Latin tribes say, I'm going to go to the land of Israel because that's where my forefathers are from. It said the other explains the words as day begins with the darkness of the night, but turns into day, so shall the darkness of their banishment be turned into bright daylight. And here's a reference to Mishnah San. The fourth book of Ezra took the latter view, which was adopted also by R. Judah Ha-Nasi in the Tosefta, who refers to Isaiah. What is that? That's Isaiah 17 and 13, which I'm not going to go into. I'll go into that afterwards. Then you have, so there you have it, man. Even the so-called Jews from the Jewish Encyclopedia, the unedited full text of 1906 Jewish Encyclopedia from JewishEncyclopedia.com. Now I'm going to go into some of these comments. Yakani Yisrael, truth. Amaziah ben Israel, wow. Issachar ben Israel, all praises to the Most High. Judah Israel, it ain't no secret. Right, that's true, it ain't no secret. Harry A. Van Twistern, they're in another land, not in Canaan. Well, that other land is Canaan. And that's pretty much all I have to say. And I'll see y'all on the comment section of this video. But hey, this you know, they say that we making stuff up, we're crazy, we're bugged out. You know, we don't know what the hell we're talking about. What school did you go to? What theological seminary did you attend? Look, man, this is in our spirit. This is in our DNA. The fact that we know that we're Israel is because the Most High opened up our spirits to be educated or self-educated or educated by other men that push certain brothers for their eyes to see like us. We had starting from the apostles, we went out, we set up a camp and went on YouTube, and that caused so many brothers that are in Great Millstone, and we can't even keep this. It's impossible to keep up with all the guys in Great Millstone. And then you have all the other so-called alphabet camps. And this is becoming a nuisance to these Christian organizations and the elite. That's why you got all these Christian so-called ministers and pastors really taking shots at what we're teaching. You know, you got vocab in them, but we have the truth. And every time we do a video, we bring you more and more truth. And this just confirms the Jewish Encyclopedia of 1906 just further confirms that we have the truth. And you can't call us crazy, and you can't say that we made this stuff up. The Most High, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, is getting ready to do some major things. He's getting ready to change this whole world. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And by the way, so-called Jews follow and keep and study from the Apocrypha. With that, I'm going to say Shalom.